And the final day of IMLEC 22 at Guildford. A bit of a different set of footage this time. We'll get right into it. So this first up was David Mail with his 5-inch Speedy. And Bracknell, a regular IMLECer, came second at Maidstone. Usually does pretty well. He had the repeat problem from this IMLEC. Slipping, reverse, and go again. I was after David, so while David was on, it was my turn to steam up. So get a load of paraffin soaked charcoal in the box. Is my preferred method, and then throw a fire on top and let it burn down. That was me ready to that as David comes past for another attempt at the hill, having dropped a passenger or two. I can't remember. This time we got a little further, but from my vantage point in the bays, he did seem to go past a fair bit. There he goes on attempt 3 with even less passengers aboard. And I was back to lighting up. David did manage to get round eventually. It did take a while to get that first lap in, but he did cover quite a bit of distance and did put a score on the board. My run then. This is taken from Amy on the back, one of my 2 passengers plus the observer. I went with the lighter set because there was no way I was even going anywhere near those heavy trolleys. She got away well. Very limited slipping. And I tried to follow the club's advice of just get going as quick as possible, using this downhill as a kicker. Really nice steady start. I didn't get going quite as much as I'd hoped I would have done. Trojan running well by this point. I think I got my fire about right. I put on coal as I left the bays. Had a nice box full of charcoal. The coal was burning by the time I pulled away, and the coal was burning well. She made the first corner, and she was looking steady, but she did get into the hill, and then this happens. So she started the long climb up the bank, but the corner really knocked it out of it. And I was quite surprised how well she sat down and plodded for a little way. But she was getting slower. At this point I was kind of hopeful that she'd just keep creeping and ticking over the top. But when we got to the corner at the top, it was just too much drag on the bend for her.
One off. Hang on. Go on then. Go. No, another one off.
And then with both passengers off, unfortunately, she did manage to get away, and I had a good run. I banged in 12 laps. She burnt quite a heavy amount of coal. I did put on a couple full. I didn't let it burn down quite enough at the end. I didn't get any more footage of my run, unfortunately. Only these few shots. She ran pretty flawlessly. She ran out of oil towards the end, so she started getting a bit heavy on the coal usage as well. So all things to fix and work on. A bit of practice needed, maybe. Maiden run, not bad, I don't think. After me was this B1 Nayara. Again, went with the heavy double set. A good getaway, a bit of slipping, but nothing immediately untoward. And as you'll notice, this is the only shot I've got of him, because it took a couple of attempts to make the first corner and the run was abandoned. I never found out quite why, so he retired, went down to retirement. Then was John Cottam from Chesterfield with his Wolford Badenoch P2. This has won IMLEC before. It's a good engine, it's heavy, it's powerful, lots of big wheels, lots of stiction. 3 of the heavy trolleys, reasonably full of passengers, as you can see. A bit of slipping, but it just walks away with it. Slightly precarious, that, but
See you later.
the P2 ran well, had a good constant pace, put in a good number of laps. Unfortunately, it was quite heavy on the coal usage, so he ended up scoring 5th, I believe. We'll see the scoreboard at the end anyway. But it was a good solid performance. Did set a few fires under the track, which we dealt with. Then another Chesterfield member, Steve Eaton. Yes, that was a strange looking loco. It's an absolutely amazing machine though. It's a freelance take on a German outline, built more or less with IMLEC in mind. 280, heavy as anything you like, sealed bearings, some wizardry going on within its boiler. You look in the cab, there's very little going on that's not needed. And with the same load as the P2, it just walked. No fuss, very little in the way of anything coming from the chimney. And it was a very impressive run for an engine of this size. I know built to do the job, but for an engine of this size, impressive. In these conditions on this track with that load. It just kept going. Then up was the 9F. I didn't get a lot of footage of the 9F, but at this sort of point I was putting Trojan back in the car and sorting her out, so I only got a few clips in passing. but 9Fs are big, heavy, made to pull big loads, freight locos. So again, it had a pretty solid run. Only a double trolley, but you don't overload these things. This is part of the game of IMLEC. Pick your load. It was a good solid run. And last up of the day, last year's winner, Billy Stock from Urmston with his 5-inch Britannia William Wordsworth. Again, he went with the triple trolleys. A bit of a spinny, slippy start. But once it found its feet, it didn't look back.
Awesome.
So as Billy came to the end of his run, of what was a mightily impressive run, along with numerous others from the weekend that put in sterling runs. Ben Pavia, John Cotton, Steve Eaton, Tom Parham, Les Pritchard in the 3.5. Pretty much everyone gave it a really good go. It was a really good competition. Not the best conditions, but that's part of the game of IMLEC. So looking at the scores there, no surprises who the top lot were. Les Pritchard won the 3.5. Ben Pavia in third. Steve Eaton second. And the winner, defending and keeping the trophy for another year, Billy Stock from Urmston. So I'll leave you now with the finished scoreboard. There is a more detailed version available from Guildford's website, I believe. So you can see Billy Stock 1.8, mighty score. Steve Eaton likewise 1.5. Closely followed, although a stunning run with a smaller load, still managed to get a decent score out of it. Ben Pavia 1.4. Tom with Tornado. Tom's first run with Tornado. I doubt it will be his last. 1.18. John Cotton's P2 closely fine. Like I said, it did burn quite an amount of coal. 1.1, and then Robert Hurst. I scored 0.489, so I'm just off the bottom of this screenshot. I think everybody that entered IMLEC gave it a bloody good shot. Everybody went there, mostly just for the fun of it. Some people take it more seriously than others, but everyone I spoke to, and everyone I had a chance to speak to, was just thoroughly enjoying themselves. Yes, there were some grumblings, as there always are. You'll never get away from that, over track conditions or weights and loads, or you name it, someone will grumble about it somewhere. But all in all, it was a good, fun weekend, good experience, my first IMLEC, and it won't be my last. So, there will be one more video to follow up these three. And that will be I don't want to call it a review, but a look from my point of view as a spectator and as a competitor. Pros and cons, positives and negatives, and just honest opinions, really. That will be following this video, so a day or two later. But I'll leave you with that. I know these videos were a bit hit and miss. The volume wasn't great in some of them, but we'll see if this one's any better. I got some of my facts a little bit wrong. I misremembered some of the runs. But I hope all in all, I provided those who weren't there with a bit of a insight to what actually went on.